Welcome back, everybody.
Hey!
More Pokemon Shield, not randomizer, Nuzlocke. I'm eating my words.
How the heck are we gonna have randomizer?
Oh, I wish I could do a randomizer, but I can never figure it out.
We're just gonna keep struggling.
Hmm.
He's gonna keep twerking.
Shake that tail.
Shake that fox for me. Shake that fox for me.
I hope everybody's doing well today. I need to start saying that more.
I want to talk about my feelings.
I want to talk about their feelings.
I'm they. I'm outside of you. Pause.
Still want to keep talking about Pokemon Silver?
Oh no, we've had, what, 3 episodes of that? 2 episodes of me ranting about Pokemon Soul Silver. I think the people...
Not really ranting, just reminiscing.
I think the people... Let's reminisce about other games from our childhood. Thoughts on Super Mario Sunshine?
Loved it.
Loved it. It was my first Mario... Well, no, it wasn't really my first Mario game, but it was the first one I think I played. Because I used to go and my sister used to babysit me, my half-sister. And she had a Super Nintendo with Mario 3, Mario World. So that was a big part of my childhood. So, what have you been up to all week?
Nothing much. Calves have been born. Staying up until 12, waiting for something to happen in the barn.
Then going the hell to sleep.
Fun, yeah, passing out. Where'd our energy go?
Where'd our energy go? I'm running out of shit to say. No, I'm not. I'm just... Okay. How do you feel about doing a Discord games night?
It'd be fun.
I mean, because what I was thinking, there's a lot of games I can get that are like role-playing games that are theater of the mind. And...
So you mean like a tabletop games night?
Yeah. Because I know D&D, you need a board for it, but there's Vampire. There's
Well, if you have a camera, you can have a board for it.
That is true. Trust me. When my nephew used to play, when we played D&D, and we need a board, it's very janky.
Like just go on MS Paint and screen share with everybody.
I guess I could do that. I do have Paint on my computer.
And so do I.
How hard is it to make a grid on Paint?
Not quite sure.
It'll be really nice.
The thing is, if we were to do that, I'd need my dice back.
Fair enough, but there's another issue. Everybody else would need dice.
Yeah.
What move did you get?
I think it's taunt.
Ah.
Excuse me.
I have a sneaking suspicion that they are going to delay SMT5 again.
Possibly.
Well, because they said it was going to be spring 2021, early spring 2021, and I'm gonna give it till the end of April, and then I'm just gonna give up on it. Like, no, sad boy hours. Like, I was hyped about that since 2017 when they released the first teaser trailers. And a lot of other stuff. I love SMT series. I would have loved... Like, if I had the consoles to play most of the Persona games, I would have played them. I watched the Super Gaming Bros play Persona 1 And I love this one line because the loading screen is Vishnu. His head is the Vishnu head. And some guy's like, he kind of looks like he's rapping. He's like, he's Vishnu on the ones and twos. And they're like, that is racist to a point, or deityist, but it's also funny and memorable.
Going back to D&D, I was thinking about characters to make.
Yeah.
And I thought about this goblin, which is an artificer, and its name is Crazy Talk. It doesn't know any languages. It's just whenever you talk, you have to scream like that, like the wild child from the Thornberries. I can't remember that kid's name.
Oh. Oh my god. I have so many different characters over the course of my life.
Which are mostly dwarves.
No, I mean, I do have quite a few dwarves. I do love, like, dwarves are my favorite race. Actually, what's really funny is when my nephew started playing D&D, the first character I played, his name was Osiris Farcaller. He was a human conjure wizard from a kingdom that had been usurped by a family of halfling illusionists. He had been thrown out because they hated the conjurers because they were the king's favorite. Had them all enslaved, and he was on the running because all the halflings were after him. Didn't trust halflings, didn't trust anybody. He was going down a Diablo-style dungeon crawl because there was supposedly gold at the end. And I was in on the secret, although no one else was, but me and my nephew. So I helped him with this campaign. Is the idea was that you go to this place called Crowtalon, and the idea was that you hear these stories about gold and fame and all this power and stuff, whoever can go to the bottom of the dungeon. And as you go down, you start realizing little things are amiss and noticing little things. And what it is an illusion created by an extremely powerful warlock to train people to be proper sacrifices for his deity, or his patron, who is a demon lord of gluttony.
Wow.
So essentially, he's like this big blob, gigantic mouth sitting there going, "Feed me," and the warlock is essentially drawing people. And as you realize, this whole thing is designed to not kill you, because it is designed to give you enough challenge that by the end of this challenge, this gauntlet, level 1 heroes are now level 20, and they're supposed to be just weak enough that they can kill you and then sacrifice you to this demon lord of gluttony. Really, really amazing storyline for a kid who's only 16 to write. Then we went to... He actually had a whole world. He had 3 worlds that were all stuck together. Crowtalon's world would go to a world called Metrotechnica, which was purely built because they had an unearthed arcana that was all futuristic races, or classes. He patched the rest of them out. Like, we worked and made a whole bunch of homebrew futuristic classes for each of the other ones, because when they came out, they had the City Cleric, and they had, I know it was the City Cleric, they had the Technomancer Wizard, and they had something else, but he went up and he made a Path of the Bane Barbarian, which was a chemically infused reference to Bane from Batman. The Street Samurai, which were the fighters, which were based on the Street Samurai from Shadowrun, a bit of Casey Jones from TMNT, and they were gangers that had found a bunch of ancient Japanese text and had learned to fashion their own weaponry. The Nanite Bloodline Sorcerers, which their magic was actually electrical and came from the nanites in their blood. All different types of stuff, honestly. And then it went to the Behest of the Forgotten, which was a world after Metro Technica where all the gods left, and it was like Mad Max, desert, worlds falling apart. Only a couple of gods left. Most of them were evil. Asmodeus was in a coffin because the god said screw it, threw a gigantic spear through the world, lanced all the way through the material plane and hell. The world was falling apart. Anything that was an otherworldly being was looking for a way out, so they were binding to people and making these things called planar bound. So devil bound, angel bound, demon bound. And I was playing a gunslinger, human gunslinger. So I was playing a street samurai Metro Technica. I need a little bit of water because I'm choking on a peanut. I'm choking on a peanut from a peanut butter sandwich. So, the great thing about being planar bound is depending on what being you bound to, well, you always got two characters. You could switch back and forth between two forms that had different stats, different abilities, different personalities. So, if you, depending on which one you picked, your characters would go up in a particular stat and down in a particular stat. So, my character's name is Robert Nash. He was a human gunslinger, fighter. And his other side was Zaphaniel, the devil. And the trick was, they kind of had he was supposed to be kind of Ghost Rider to begin with, but he kind of had a little bit of Etrigan from DC, because the trick about any bound is they had to have this little rhyme to go back and forth between their two forms. And if one of them died, you could come back as the other one, and it kind of gave you more survivability. There was a lot of downsides to it too. And at one point, there was this hobgoblin scavenger hermit living in this hole that I was living with. And the devil character that I was playing found out that one of his old legionaries, because all the devil bound in the lore were Hell Knights that had escaped, and they had been imprisoned angels. So he wanted to take care of his old legionaries. And so he actually went and forced a transformation and shot this hobgoblin in the head, so that this devil that he used to work with could force his way in and make a pact to make him a devil bound. But then it turned out he actually became a demon bound and a devil bound, and it was three heads fighting for supremacy. And then, of course, like all our campaigns, someone got bored because we never actually finished any of these campaigns. They all end up falling apart somewhere along the line.
Oh yeah.
Because of something or other. And of course, like, it's really hard to play over Discord sometimes.
Oh yeah.
And I find it really hard to love a character. I have such a horrible character attention span. And sometimes characters die and you need to redo party composition. Like, we had lost our cleric in Crotalin. So I went to become a human variant cleric of Odin, war cleric of Odin. And he was this giant spear-wielding holy symbol of a dangling eye having giant dude called Gear the Maimed, who had horrible dexterity, had been stabbed to the leg, and he was looking for honor, and he didn't care if he died, and he was just this amazing character that was going through, and he became a cleric berserker, a barbarian actually, because he wanted to be a berserker. And I forget what happened with that, but it fell apart. Then we went to a pirate campaign. And I had an old bard character that I loved. His name was Revion Thundertongue. He was a half-elf bard who had been living his whole life under an incredibly overprotective human father because his elven wife left when the kids were young, and he didn't want to lose his kids, so he kept them in the manor, and he was a diplomat. Kept them in the manor, taught all his kids diplomacy, sword fighting, everything, but never let them go off property. So Revion, who his mother was a bard, had told him all about all this beautiful stuff outside in the world. And so one day he just packed up and he snuck out and he left. And he was supposed to be just an everyday... Did we just lose...
Nope, I switched.
Oh, okay, I just like looked over and I just saw it go bottom. I'm like, oh god, no. We lost Ryder. No. Revion, in this campaign, it was about pirates. And so he became pirate captain. And the shittiest pirate captain, who doesn't really believe in stealing anything.
No, although it's just a sea captain.
Well, sort of. There's this kind of thing about like people coming back when they die. They come like, and no one really dies in this world. It's like they just go to ash, and depending on a certain saving throw determines how long they're sort of in stasis. But Revion and his crew got murked, and he nearly lost all his crew. And he kind of ended up... He's going through sort of a character arc right now, where he's kind of going from this incredibly free-spirited to having this nobody screws with me attitude. I'm really hoping I can play tomorrow, but I have to go over to town and help clean out a house. A family member recently died, and I have to go and help pull all the stuff out of their apartment by the end of the month, or else it just gets moving crew coming in and throwing it all away.
Yeah.
So we don't want that happening. I love Dungeons and Dragons. Actually, my birth point to Dungeons and Dragons was thanks to, I don't know if I talked about this before, I'll say it again. I was in a program for kids with social problems when I was younger, and there was a local university where the students would come over to the local YMCA, and it was kind of, give somebody a good solid, no judgment, work on your social skills kind of thing. And there were other kids with all different types of issues, and these people were...
It was Big Brothers, Big Sisters, right?
It wasn't that,
okay.
But it was, I would say it's modeled after that. But
okay.
Big Brothers Big Sisters is mainly for every kid, and I think it's mainly for those who don't have really good family or friend structures.
Okay.
But for us, it was like, because I'm a high-functioning autistic. I'm not afraid to say that. And there were other kids with all different types of mental and social problems, and just help them work on their social skills and give them somebody to, hang out with. And every Christmas, he was like older. He had like a placement at this university. Like he was at that kind of stage. He was cool. We used to talk about cloning fruit flies and stuff. Okay. He worked in a DNA lab cloning fruit flies. And he used to really listen to me, and he was really cool. And there's a lot of stuff that he would give me that I will never get rid of. Because he got me my first D&D Player's Handbook, and it was a 4th edition handbook. And that's why 4th edition is what got me into D&D. But obviously, at this point, I will never get rid of that Player's Handbook. I might sell the Dungeon Master's Guide and the Monster Manual, but I will never get rid of the Player's Handbook. And he got me this Lord of the Rings trilogy in a metal case with extended editions and extra commentary on a 6-disc set. And I will never get rid of that. That is my holy grail. I love that collection because I love Lord of the Rings. I've never watched Lord of the Rings, but all it took was for me to say to him in passing at some point, I'd love to do this, I'd love to try this, I'd love to see this, and then he'd always find a way to get it, and it was amazing. Some of the things, he must have spent way too much money. And I remember one guy, actually, he had come over, and he'd kind of jokingly say, "You're making us all look bad." Because, one guy would get this one kid Hot Wheels, dinky cars or whatever, because he loved cars. And then I'd pull out this big wrapped hardcover D&D Player's Handbook, So like one kid getting like a $5 thing, and I'm getting like a $30 thing.
Alright, that marks the end of the episode. Thank you for, I guess, listening, everybody. That was a lot of talking.
Was a lot of talking.
It's a nice thing to talk about, though.
It's a one-sided conversation, too.
I hope everybody has a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time.
Bless.
Give it like a couple seconds. I almost said a fuckle.
A fuckle suckle?
A fuckle seconds. It's called a fuckle when you're running out of time. Alright. Got a sip of water.
I do, too.